Everyone, so we're here in Sacramento at the Face and Body Skincare Show, and I'm talking with fellow esthetician and brother here in this industry, Terrance. And as usual, what I like to always bring in our industry is what are the challenges and opportunities that we are facing in our industry, and how, as we push this industry along. I mentioned before that we've become essential in the last past 4 years, and just me meeting some of the big hitters in this industry, learning a little more about our industry, and grow and how we are growing is always important to me, and I like to share that with you. So, without further ado, Terrance, can you tell us a little bit about you, Mr. Bonner?
Yeah, thank you. So, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate this.
Of course.
But I'm a licensed massage therapist, esthetician. I've been in the industry for over 13 years, educator as well. So, the journey has been a journey.
Yeah.
It's been that. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah.
I appreciate everything that I've gone through to be where I am today.
Yeah. So Terrance is pretty modest. Terrance is kind of a face and a fixture in our professional industry, especially as one of the male estheticians who've been sort of around. And he does a lot of great educational classes, and he's written a book.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, if you can just share with me and some of the viewers here and young estheticians and people who are in the industry some of the challenges that you face and that you still see in this industry.
Wow. So the biggest thing is honestly being a male in this industry. What is one of the huge things, because of course this is a female dominated industry, and not only being a massage therapist but also being an esthetician, it's double standard for me. So being a massage, being aesthetics is just like, oh, you're a guy, in these industries, basically what are you doing here? That's what I felt.
Can you explain that? What are you doing here? Can you give me something a little bit more nuanced? Because I know you go to a lot of these shows, and what people don't realize, and maybe some of the professionals do realize, there are industry shows that are more, let me just use lack of a better term, that have more Black presence and minority presence, and then there's some that are white or other presence. And I know that Terrance, you do a lot of them. What are some of the challenges that you?
Basically, the challenges are, from my perspective, my
Of course, please.
perspective, is that I had to show my approval, show myself that I had what it took to be, who I am, where I am. But just
so there's a welcoming here when you come. So you talked about your approval. Was getting jobs harder? Were they easier? Clients harder, easier? How did those things pan out for you?
So in the beginning, going to, because I did solo massage first. I received a job. I got a job doing massage. However, once I got my aesthetic license, no one hired me. No one. Applied to several different places, and no one hired me. So, as in the profession, have I ever had a job where I was hired as an esthetician? No. So for me, that was very hard, because of course I'm striving and wanting to be the best, but here it is, I can't even, find a job to do what I love to do. And, it was disheartening for me, but I had to basically turn that energy into positive, for myself, and just basically keep going to prove myself right that this is what I'm supposed to do. Because if I would have let that, stop me, where would I be today?
Right, and you definitely are in the rooms for sure, and you're doing a lot with your business. Can you speak a little bit about some of your special techniques with, because you teach and you do massage and you are an esthetician, and I know you to be your classes are a business and lymphatic drainage, but I want you to talk a little bit more about your craft and what's your specialty, what do you enjoy doing, and why?
So with and how I move when it comes to education is that I want to first make sure that I know personally what I'm doing. So many times we see watered down education where, somebody go take a weekend class and then the next weekend they're teaching it. So for me, I really study my craft, just like with the lymphatic drainage, me doing 96 hours, those 2.5 weeks worth of education that I did. Of course, once I got done, of course, I was teaching already at the time. So when I got back to, my state and, around my peers, it was like, we really want to learn this. But I said, one, I need to make sure that I know what I'm doing. So it wasn't until 5 years after I took my training, had my hands-on experience, seeing the different things with my clients, my own, experience within my spa, now I can go out and educate others because I've seen it firsthand how things work, what happens if something goes wrong. So you have those things to feed off of so that you can convey it over to your participants in your classroom. For me, so, that's kind of how I've always rolled. I don't just jump into anything. I want to make sure that if I'm going to invest my money in something, that the person that I'm going to invest in, the class, the person, the company, that they truly understand what they're doing. And so it's almost like, the Bible says, treat others how you want to be treated. So it's the same thing with me. I want the best education for myself, and I'm going to give that same education to anyone who takes my class.
Right. You talk about lymphatic drainage. I know that that's one of the classes that you teach.
Yes.
I find it for those who don't know what lymphatic drainage is or new to it,
Mhm.
can you speak a little bit more about the importance of it and then how you have what you've learned and how you have sort of curtailed it to make it special for your particular practice and how you teach people?
Yes. So, of course, initially going into lymphatic drainage, it was all about post-op. I'm going to have surgery. My doctor told me I need to find a therapist. So that's how I initially got into it. But of course, once I got into the class, the training, I saw it open my eyes to, okay, this is not just for post-op, which of course that's what a lot of people see. But what about the people who can't afford surgery, who are afraid of surgery? That's how I got into doing a non-surgical facelift. So, I kind of coined some things, doing this and kind of, like you said, curated it for my clients and for my practice. And so basically now I'm just going out showing others, say, hey, you can still do post-op. However, there's other things, inflammation, acne, rosacea, eczema, again, the non-surgical facelift things that you can do with lymphatic drainage, not just, okay, post-op, post-op, post-op. You can help clients doing pre-op, before they even do the surgery. You can help them do that as well. So of course we talk about all that during the class.
I think that's great. I work with oncology
Mhm.
clients. Um, I'm learning, and I
Mhm.
definitely will be sitting with you more how to really work with them after post treatment.
Mhm.
Can you talk to me about preparing them for? Can I prepare my particular client once they know that they're about to go into chemo and radiation uh, for that particular treatment? And then can you talk a little bit about how I can approach lymphatic drainage after treatment? Because I know that with cancer patients, people who are living with cancer, excuse me, they we try to be nice with them or mild with them under 5 months. We know that it's about pressure, pace, and
Mhm.
position.
Mhm.
And so we do use a certain type of pressure, but I think lymphatic drainage can help if there's not lymphedema, if there's not lymph nodes removed, there
Correct.
is. And so can you talk a little bit about that? I probably will.
Yeah. So it's so the preventive, well, in pre,
Right.
what you can do is basically you're setting them up so that they can basically heal faster. So you open up those vessels. So once they go in with the surgery, their lymph nodes, of course, and everything is flowing a little bit better than, of course, doing nothing prior to.
Hmm.
Of course, they do not have its own pump like our heart. Like we're sitting here, our heart is pumping on its own, but our lymphatic system does not have that. So we act as that pump or that flush for our lymphatic system.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
good. That's good to know. It's just something I want to definitely approach more of. I have to admit that as long as I've been working with clients, I'm getting more people who are, getting a lot of things removed and mastectomies and things of that nature. They don't have, thank God, I haven't encountered any lymphedema, but lymphatic drainage is something that they're looking for and they want, and I want to make sure that I do it to the best of my ability.
Yes.
I actually just received some compression sleeves.
Okay.
Can you talk to me? Do you know
Mm-hmm.
how do you feel about those compression sleeves in performing lymphatic drainage? I prefer hands. I think people need touch, but do you feel like those sleeves are helpful, especially to a client who is immunosuppressed or going through surgeries?
So two things. One, you touched on removal of the lymph nodes. So that's a huge thing people, don't understand and maybe omit when they're, performing lymphatic drainage, and maybe even omit asking, have you had any removed? How many have you had removed? Of course, hopefully that the doctors are honest and give them the correct, amount, because, just saying, oh, just removed a few when a few is all. And you have to know that as a therapist to understand that, hey, if they move too much, then what you're doing is not really going to go anywhere, in the area. But the compression.
Interesting. I didn't know that. So here's the thing on that. This is the difference. What makes an oncology trained aesthetic esthetician different than a regular esthetician? We know to ask those questions, and this is what we try to tell the clients that come straight out of those treatments. Hey, be mindful that you are getting a thorough consultation from your esthetician or massage therapist, because most don't even think or to know to ask about that, because they're treating you as someone who has not been through this particular life-threatening illness or a situation. Your body has changed. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, it's good, because again, these are conversations that need to be had, because like you say, you just omit this, like, oh, okay, well, you're done with your treatments. Okay, let's fine. We can, go into proceeding with a massage or, a facial. But with the compressions, they're great. Like you say, it wouldn't be solo of just a compression. It would be a combination of both, of treatments, hands-on lymphatic drainage, and the compression.
Okay.
Because a lot of times I've seen with post-op is that, say for instance, they wear their compressions and then they, well, I'm gonna take it off for an hour. Most times that's the rule of thumb. Wear it 23 hours, and 1 hour you can, take it off. Whether that's, while you bathing, those type of things. But what happens during that time is they swell, and they begin to be uncomfortable. I won't necessarily say hurting, they're just uncomfortable.
In the compression.
Outside of the compression. So it's great to have that compression, but also you're compressing, but you still need to move that lymph, that fluid to, so it can disperse and, out of the system.
So it goes back to the hand. It goes back to the hands. And I believe that anybody who's been immunosuppressed or have been through anything life-threatening, when they come to see someone like yourself and myself, hands are very important.
Right.
It also helps with that parasympathetic nervous system.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So there's so much more we could talk about lymphatic drainage. I need to sit with you more. But I definitely want to go back to the real reason why we're here. Listen, we're two African-American men in this industry. There is a growing male population of estheticians. We're part of a chat group, started by a male esthetician. It's over almost 250 of us in that chat group. That's grown, and we've known each other for the past 2-3 years, and that has grown, right? Immensely. But it's still, I feel that there's still so much room for growth and opportunity here. I know what I'd like to see. Can you explain, as honest and open as you can, because this is me, I want you to be candid on the opportunity, first, about the growing population of men that are estheticians and actually getting services, but some of the opportunities that's possible for us here.
Well, I think the biggest thing is overall is representation.
Hello.
Is that
I was waiting for that. I wanted him to say it, not me, because he's the guest.
It's a representation, whether that is seeing a male esthetician in the treatment room or seeing a male esthetician at a show presenting. It's representation and being able to see that whether you know um black, brown, Caucasian, whatever, seeing that representation, like, this is someone, maybe they can be my mentor to help me along the way. Or somebody I can just call every so often and say, hey, I got a, question, like we do. We call each other, and talk. But but again, having that representation and knowing you see these people often, like you say, it's like, oh, Terrance is here, Terrance is there, but then, people begin to ask questions, but that's only because they see that representation.
Yeah.
So.
I agree. I always think, and I say this, and I've learned this, women have face-to-face relationships, men have side-to-side relationships, and a lot of our industry, especially on the aesthetic side, um, I think it's easier for gay men to have no problems when they see each other kind of jumping in and getting in, but there's other men who don't identify as such, and they're still a little bit. I'm not saying that everyone who's non-gay is shy, but there is less of a community build, right? And I think because our group is predominantly gay, let me just say that, and it's great, and we're very kind of jovial with each other, but this is for other men who may be a little bit more shy, uh, and maybe don't know that if they have a community of men to see other men at these trade shows speaking about some of the challenges and opportunities, doing demonstrations, working on certain clients. I've been doing workshops and classes, as you know, about bringing men into the space, but also it's nice. It's for men in our profession to see how to work with women, right? And so when they see a Terrance and they see a Lashelle, they can ask those questions and they can get those things, those skills and those. I can't believe I blanked out, but that's okay. I have a conversation. I have to talk in like a couple of minutes, but it's nice for them to be able to identify with someone, be able to have an opportunity to get those questions answered for themselves, and also to see, uh, I feel that representation on the male front is changing. What I like to see is representation on the black and brown front. And let me just be more specific. I'll just say black because I think brown is in here. And when I say representation, I mean opportunity, because in our industry, we know that the money can't just happen in the treatment room. Right? A lot of estheticians, when we go to these trade shows, we start to build relationships with other skincare companies and brands, and then we have offset positions, like we can work as in their sales department, hopefully in their creative department, and that's what I like to see happen. Do you feel that you see enough of that happening in the male perspective? And let's just be more clear on the black male perspective. Let's talk about the two worlds that no one talks about in aesthetics, because I know that you do more of the other black aesthetic shows and you come to the more non-black aesthetic shows as well. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's definitely a difference. The energy is different,
Can you talk in what way? Here's the thing, Terrance. We're not gonna do this is me and you. Okay. Yes, they're gonna see you, but Terrance knows Terrance is being very diplomatic because he's so sweet and very professional. And I think it's smart. Here's the thing. We're honest people. I'm not gonna stay in the problem here. What's the problem? What's the opportunity? That's what we want people to see here. So what's the problem?
So I mean, it's like night and day, and just honest. I mean, I can go to a predominantly black conference, and again, the energy is just different because just like last year, there was the first Black Massage Therapy Conference in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
And I literally cried in my classroom. I had a classroom and I probably had close to 30 therapists in my classroom. And as the keynote speaker was speaking, he had been in the industry over 30 years. And honestly, he was the first and only massage therapist I seen as representation when I came into the industry 13 years ago. And honestly, he's still the only person of color that I see when it comes to on the massage side. But going into that room and just hearing the different conversations that people are going through, and it hit me so hard because I went through the same thing. And it's just a thing of camaraderie, the appreciation for each other, when we're together in those rooms as Black and brown, versus when I come to a more
non-Black
what's
the difference?
Conference, is they don't understand
That's a beautiful
the struggle.
I think that's a beautifully, I've learned in the diplomatic way of saying it, and I'm honest, and I don't think how I'm taking that is, you're not being diplomatic because you mean something else. I just came into the realization of exposure, right?
Yeah.
We don't know personally how much exposure they have to someone like ourselves. Outside a quick acquaintance or a glance, or or sort of superficial relationships, right?
Yeah.
And the more I'm in here, and I do have some wonderful people who are in this industry, women who are not Black, who have taken me by the wings. I've gotten this far because of the help of those women, and I'm sure you have too,
Yes.
right? And it's the willingness and the openness to want to understand and learn
and help
and help. And you help from a place of sort of a self-sacrifice, right? And of course, it's business, right? So people are going to if they're helping you, they realize that you have something to offer and that it's going to help them as well, right? And not that you're going to take away. And I used to think that, wow, they think that we're going to come in here and take away something, and there may be some of that there, but I think it's back to what you said. It is an understanding. I am 2 years in the game, and I was really shocked at the stark difference of, there's a Black aesthetics world, predominantly women still, and then there's a non-Black aesthetics world, and none of the two shall meet. They have not really intertwined. There's people who trickle, more Black people tend to trickle into these non-Black trade shows because they've been around longer, and the Black ones are just starting to build themselves up, but the community is very strong. What I like to see is an opportunity where it all melds together, right?
Yes.
That may or may not happen in the near future, because I think there's a lot of room for understanding that needs to happen. In the meantime, I am in these spaces to be part of that change in any way that I can, in a positive way. The reason why I'm doing this is to use my voice to speak to those challenges, but to also have conversations, to learn, to hopefully create a conversation that can build solutions.
Correct.
These big companies are, well, we can talk about that too. Like the big companies, man, that are here, there's opportunity for expansion in your business as an esthetician. Sales shouldn't be 100%. I mean, services shouldn't be 100% the way that you bring in your income.
Right.
But in order to grow outside of that, there's a part of you that has to align with these brands,
Mm-hmm.
and getting them to see you, right, and then see your value. Have you had experiences with some brands? Um, and tell me a little bit about that.
So initially, the brand that we held in school, that was the first brand I actually worked for. Um, and it opened my eyes a lot, of course, working the shows and um, having that opportunity to do that. But that only further helped open the doors for other companies as well. So, that company was a non-black, company, and
You don't want to give out. We're not giving out names.
meaning owner.
Okay, we're not
Yeah.
giving names out.
No.
Okay, Terrance is very sweet. This is why I love Terrance. He's a real gentleman. Go ahead.
So, it was a great opportunity. That
Okay.
was the first opportunity, and of course, after that, more began to build and, further, having collaborations and partnering with different companies, stuff like that. But there was an opportunity there. However, you have to present yourself as a professional, and you have that knowledge that you can help that company in whatever way that is. And I think a lot of companies since COVID has shifted a lot.
They've had no other choice in a sense. We're here, right, and we are big consumers,
Mhm.
and I and this is for another conversation that I'll have another time. But a lot of this shift I felt was, what's the word I'm looking for? When you performative,
Mhm.
right? They had our faces up there.
Mhm.
They had uh, maybe one black person in the dugout, right? But no one was
Yeah,
in the where the power is, right?
right.
Where the decision making is, right? The
Mhm.
creative spaces. And that really bothered me. I would go to these trade shows and I would see that, and sometimes I'd even see a black or brown person
Mhm.
in the dugout.
Mhm.
And when I say the dugout, I mean around the counters, who were doing the sales, who were part of the team, but they had our faces up there.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I was like, no, that's not going to work anymore. And it's
Yeah.
not sustainable. So here's the thing. And I definitely will have that conversation, a more expansive conversation. That's still going on today, but I think men like yourself, myself, there's Ronnie,
Mhm.
there is so many females that I can't grasp all their names right now, that are kind of out branching and casting a wider net in this environment and sort of building those relationships. And I see a change. It's a gradual change, but it's a change.
Yeah. Slowly.
I feel like we're
Slowly.
back in civil rights, talking like we're Malcolm X, but it's happening in the skincare world, where that understanding has to happen. I think it is happening, and I think men like yourself continue to show up and do what you do with your grace and your professionalism and your kindness, and he's so loving and giving and open, allows more spaces like for young students, young male students, black, brown, and other to come on in here and feel comfortable. And I think
Mhm.
that's what me and you are trying to do, or doing,
Yeah.
here in this industry. Well, I will speak with you again,
Okay.
and it will be a nicer interview, because we did a drive-by today, because I knew you were on your way out and I'm on my way on
Yeah.
stage to speak. I admire you so much.
Thank
You
you.
know that,
Thank
right?
you. I
And
appreciate you.
can you tell us where we can find you and how we can find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at @IAM_Terrance Bonner, Terrance with an A. You can also subscribe to my website at thebonnerinstitute.com.
Can you tell us a little bit about your book? What's the name of that book?
Yeah, so my book is called Determination Plus Core Values Equals Success. It's a 2-time award-winning book, and I wrote the book during COVID. And initially, it was supposed to be an autobiography about my life. However, I began to see, different businesses, not necessarily in the beauty industry, just every business, just so many closed. And I'm just like, why are they closing? Like, but I noticed that their business wasn't set up correctly to where they were able to receive funds in order to, sustain and keep going.
Yeah.
And so I wrote the book. It's a workbook. In the beginning of the book, I tell about a lot of my, upbringing and actually how I began to develop core values unknowingly at an early age, even starting at 4 and 5 years old.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think I have a copy of the book, or I'm going to get a copy of the book. I want a copy of the book, but I have Terrance as in my phone, so I'm lucky to have you there. Thank you for this time today. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
And I apologize again for this drive-by look of the video today, but thank you for joining us today. And please join me again as I'll be speaking to more people in the industry about some of the challenges and opportunities that we face and how we can just kind of continue to elevate and grow in this skin health profession. Thank you, and have a nice rest of the day.